Right, welcome back. We are diving into our first interview for the evening. Nigeria is at a critical economic moment. Inflation is rising, the Naira continues to struggle, and the 2026 budget has sparked tough conversations about debts, spending, and the cost of living. Families are feeling the pressure, businesses are fighting to stay afloat, and policymakers insist that reforms will soon pay off. But what is the true state of Nigeria's economy, and what should Nigerians realistically expect in the months ahead? Today we break it all down with an expert economist and financial analyst, Jude Ifani Ihe and we're discussing surviving Nigeria's economy, inflation, FX volatility, and the future of business in 2026. Good evening, Jude.
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so great to have you with us tonight.
Thank you very much.
So we're starting off with inflation, FX, volatility, and the fate of business in 2026. How do you think the inflation cost and economy generally has been for Nigeria in 2025 so far?
Yeah, in 2025, I would say, surprisingly, the macroeconomic policies put in place by the current regime, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, have they've worked to a good extent, because you recall when he came in, the first thing he did was to remove the FX windows so that we don't have parallel market anymore. What we have now is a single window for FX, in which case we don't have the black market recognized in the system as existing, while we also have the official market, official window. And that floating the Nigerian currency immediately skyrocketed the inflation rate, because it was as if Nigeria was quickly dumped into the international market to compete with stronger markets, stronger currencies. Recall that the global market is coordinated by using dollar. And when you release your local investors and local businessmen into the global market without cushion, what it means is that we are going to face the global market without any prior, boosters around. And so that skyrocketed inflation. But as you can see, the medium and long-term impact has been moderate, because inflation has moderated significantly now. Right now we have about 16.02% as the rate of inflation, against what it was maybe 2-3 months ago, around 18.5% or so. And you can see that food inflation significantly has reduced.
Yes.
Food prices have reduced, and I know it is the food sector that contributed significantly to this reduction in general inflation. The other sectors are still struggling inflation-wise, but the overall outlook of the economy within this fiscal year has been moderate, because the World Bank predicted Nigeria will grow by 3.6% this year. But actually, as at the second quarter of the year, we are growing at 4.2%, which means we have beaten the global expectation. And what this means is that the fiscal policies and macroeconomic policies being put in place is generating confidence in the investor community abroad, global investor community. Inflow is coming into the country, and it is strengthening the domestic currency and the domestic economy. And therefore, we are no longer struggling heavily to raise foreign currency to make our imports. But then the government has also done a good job diversifying the economy, because the growth we have now is led by the non-oil sector, actually. The ICT sector, the communication sector, even the entertainment industry. They are the leading, and the refining industry, actually. Dangote's refinery has made a significant contribution to the economy this year. So that is why the growth we are recording now is not totally led by oil, even though oil is still the dominant foreign exchange receipt product that we have in the system yet. But its contribution is gradually dwindling. Right now, oil is contributing about 65% of our foreign receipts. Unlike before, it has always been within 80 to 90%. So which means the non-oil sector is beginning to come off. And what it means is that the economy is gradually diversifying. But then, there are still challenges. You understand? Inflation rate at 16.02% is still high. And apart from the food sector, the other sectors are still struggling. If we should break down inflation rate sector by sector, you will find that there are some sectors whose inflation rate is still more than 18%. Yes, it's still more than 18%, which means there is need for further work by the fiscal authorities. But so far, I think their policies have done well.
You talked about global confidence, looking at how the economy is gradually, the inflation is reducing and what have you. Let's look at business, in 2025, the December period.
Okay.
What will Nigeria feel like? Will they still have confidence that period? Because that period is known for increments in goods, services, because of the influx of activities all over the place. Can we still maintain or even suppress the inflation more?
When we look at the economy, we look at it in tranches. We don't just pick December and analyze. You understand? Because by the time you bring out that of December, it will be diluted by the quarters analysis. But then, naturally, during festivities,
December, January.
Yes, during festivities like December, mainly December. You will recall that the activities that happen in December alone will surpass what has happened in the whole 6 months prior to December.
Yes.
So congestion of that quantum of activities within such a short time will definitely hit inflation. Inflation is expected to be high. It will climb. You understand?
But will you be surprised, because it's like a normal thing now, and I don't know, will you be surprised if by December, January, the rates of things are high and things feel scarcity, transport becomes an issue, tripled fare? Will you be surprised to witness something like that, knowing full well that by this time Nigerians should be aware, the government and different stakeholders should be aware that by this period of the year, things like this used to happen and measures have been put in place to manage these situations?
Yeah, it is unfortunate. We have a system, we are always post-active. We don't pre-act in Nigeria and mostly in Africa. The government knows that festivity periods, there's always congestion of activities because so many people coming to travel from one place to the other, and we have a limited infrastructure base. And moreover, most 80% of the people travel by road. Our airways, our air transport system, our coastal waterways, they have not significantly developed to, accommodate people below the middle class. So you see that most of the people, and you know that over 80% of Nigerians are below middle class. And they are the people that constitute the bulk of the economy. And they are the people that travel mostly. And so you will see a situation where so many people demanding services and there will be congestion on the road. That means fares will rise because this is governed by the law of demand and supply. When demand outstrips supply, most times prices will skyrocket. But if our leaders borrow leaf from what you see overseas, you will find that transport infrastructure is a long-term planning issue. It's not something you just put in place within a year or two. But since this thing has been a recurring decimal in Nigeria, Nigerian government should have had a long-term plan towards this. They should have started putting things in place over the years, so that by now we shouldn't have such problems. Yes, we shouldn't have panic traveling. People shouldn't be suffering so much, spending all their income just to travel to their destination during Christmas. And this eventually ripples into inflation rise.
Okay.
Because when these things happen, when an average human being is rational, when we say rational, it means when you see an opportunity, you take it. When people see that so many people are demanding their services, then most likely they will put more value to the service and make profit. That is arbitrage. They will make more money from the same service they used to render before without any rush. So that is why during Christmas, usually inflation ripples up.
All right, let's delve further into FX, volatility, and Naira. Why do you think we've had a constant rise and fall in the Nigeria currency in the international market, and how has this affected, the progress of the inflation and the increment of the rise to stability in Nigeria's economy?
Yeah, the global community, they watch what you do in your domestic economy. When President Bola Ahmed Tinubu came and floated Naira, that was a good policy. When he removed subsidy, that was a good policy. And when Central Bank also stopped using money creation to finance government deficits, that's another good policy. The common Nigerian may not know these things, but the truth is that economists understand these things to be the right path, although they will cause temporary pain. And so investors have experts who analyze these things for them, and they know that Nigeria is taking the right course. Perhaps the major problem we have is insecurity. If there's security in Nigeria, I'm assuring you Nigeria would have grown 6% this year. It would have hit 6% growth rate this year. And so, coming to your question again, when these policies were put in place, immediately it signaled to the investing community that these people are on the right track. And you know already that Nigeria is the largest market in Africa, with a population of about 220 million people. And basically this is a consuming force. We are not actually manufacturing, we import. And so what these people just need to do is to invest in Nigeria. And if you check now, you see that capital flow into Nigeria is increasing month by month.
Okay.
And that is why it has downed the quest for the dollar. Our reserve level today is around 46 billion, which is relatively high compared to what we have been having before. Even though it should not be, we should have much more than that. But at least it is better than where we are coming from. It can finance our imports for up to 4 or 5 months, which is good. The benchmark by IMF and World Bank is 3 months. Your reserve level should be able to at least finance your imports. That is, assume you don't have any other receipt, foreign exchange receipt for 3 months. Can your reserve level today finance your import for the coming 3 months? That is the benchmark. But what we have today can finance our imports for at least 4 months to 5 months, which also shows that there is influx of foreign exchange. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Our receipts is improving. And that signals to you, that suggests to you that there is investor confidence is improving overall. And investor confidence improves based on your domestic economic performance. And if you also look at the microeconomy, you will find that because when there is good macroeconomic policy, it will quickly transmit into the microeconomy. So you will find that for non-oil sector to start leading growth, it means that the macro policies are beginning to yield positive results. And all this culminates in investor confidence in the country. Again, Nigeria floated Eurobond recently, about 2.25 billion Eurobond. That bond is performing well. And because it is performing well, it shows that investors trust what is happening in the domestic economy. And that is why there is this general call for the government to improve security. They understand, to stop playing politics with security. Because if the security apparatus of this country is allowed to do what they should do, or galvanized rather to do what they should do, I don't think we should be in this security situation today. And that would have improved our economy much better. Because if you look at the North, productivity in the North has reduced significantly. And in fact, World Bank even predicted that from the second quarter of next year, the North will suffer hunger, unprecedented hunger, because the productivity is very low there right now. And you know, the productivity is there, mainly agriculture. And so when they are not producing to feed themselves and to feed the country, because they are the people feeding the country significantly, when they are not producing sufficiently to do that, and this thing takes ripples over time, it will begin to take toll on the system. So if the security apparatus were well in place and there's proper security in the country, investor confidence would have ballooned in Nigeria, because this is the gateway to African market. This is the gateway to African market.
All right, so you've made mention of the area that is really doing well, the oil and what have you. But in 2026, if Nigeria was to look back and improve on some of the sectors, which sectors, promising sectors, that you think Nigeria should look into to invest in, that can actually, attract foreign investors to come in?
Yes, our domestic productivity is still low, even though the manufacturing sector is beginning to pick up, but our domestic productivity is still significantly low relative to our size, and this is a consuming force. So the government should encourage local entrepreneurs, and the agricultural sector too should be encouraged. The banking sector should channel lending towards the agricultural sector, and that lending should be moderated in terms of interest rates. You don't lend to them at the rate of 30% and expect the farmer to perform. So the government should in fact incentivize agriculture. All over the world, agriculture is incentivized. Agriculture enjoys significant incentivization from the government. Otherwise, if you leave them to perform on the normal scale, no farmer will perform well. That is why if you go to US, the soybean manufacturing farmers in soybean in US today, they are crying because the Trump tariff has hit them, because China put a reciprocal tariff on US, and in fact they outrightly stopped buying a US soybean. They started buying from Brazil, and the thing is hitting. And Donald Trump had to have a meeting with Xi Jinping last week just to negotiate for his farmers. Those are the kind of things the Nigerian government should be doing. The northern part of Nigeria can actually be the farming, feeding basket for West Africa. They have the land, they have the manpower. All we need is coordinated government policy to do that. So the government should look back into agriculture. A lot should be done there. The manufacturing sector is not enjoying sufficient benefits. There is multiple taxation, all kinds of taxes that is levied on them. And it is wrong to always compare Nigeria with Europe and America and say, what is the tax rate? How much are we taxing you? No. These are two different economies. The government there is providing a lot of social services that we don't provide there. The manufacturers here take care of their own oil and gas, take care of the electricity, take care of road, take care of security, take care of everything on their own. And so if you are taxing them, you have to be sensitive to that and know that these people have a lot of cost components built into what they are doing. So the manufacturing sector needs help. They need government encouragement. Education deserves help. Our education is collapsing, obviously. The graduates we produce today have been overtaken. Our education school curriculum has been overrun by the level of technology we have today. So that even a brilliant student who graduates today is most likely not fit to work in a modern factory. He is not fit to work in a modern company.
They didn't have
because what we call education today is far behind what is happening in the other part of the world. You understand? So government needs to ramp up investment in education. They need to do that, because without qualified manpower, there is little you can do, even when you have excess capacity and government wants to invest to take take benefit of the excess capacity. You need manpower to do that.
All right, lastly, before we wrap up this section, you spoke briefly on taxation. Now we are aware of the tax reforms that is set to, take off from next year on businesses. What's your take on? Can you help throw more light on that? Who do you think would, suffer more? Is it small businesses or corporations?
The government actually wants to raise more revenue. They believe our IGR, internally generated revenue, is still far below what it should be. And so the tax reform aims to, net in more people into the tax net and improve collection. That is good. We should pay taxes.
Okay.
But then, I think the government should also know that it is a two-way affair. If you want tax, you should provide the facilities and the infrastructure
to
support business. It is when my business does well that I will
pay your tax.
Most private businesses atrophy and die in Nigeria within their first 1 year or 2 years because the environment out there is very harsh. They can't survive, no matter how willing you are. They understand. So the truth is that the tax regime the government is bringing is going to be very harsh. And I hope the government recognizes that they primarily need to provide sufficient infrastructure to support these businesses before you strangulate them with taxes. However, businesses that are thriving already should pay their taxes. Many of them avoid paying tax. They evade it at all costs. Meanwhile, the small businesses, people selling vegetables on trays, you see government having the heart to go and collect taxes from them on a daily basis. If you check the amount you collect from those poor women, in economies generally, there is a benchmark below which you don't tax people.
Okay.
Because tax is supposed to, is an equalizer. You collect tax from those who are up there, use it to provide social benefits
for those
to
down.
help raise these people to a certain minimum standard. But when you now suppress these people with daily taxation, you don't encourage business. So why I encourage government to, implement standard and transparent tax policy, they should know that taxes also kill businesses.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us, Jude. It was lovely having you with us this evening. All right. That was our guest, Jude Ifani, here currently, discussing inflation, FX volatility, and the future of businesses in 2026. Signature Evening continues shortly after this break.